My guest today is Sahej. Sahej is the CEO and co-founder of Avantis, an on-chain exchange for trading and market making cryptocurrencies, forex, and commodities as well. Welcome to the show, Sahej.
Andy, thanks so much for having me.
It is a pleasure. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. It would be super cool if you could please introduce yourself. Would love to hear just a little bit of your personal and professional backstory. What have you been doing in the lead up to getting involved with DeFi and founding Avantis?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working on Avantis nonstop for the last 2 years. We've been building on base mainnet. We've been live on base mainnet for a year almost. And we processed about 4.5 billion in volumes across 30,000 wallets. And we've served about 20,000 extra wallets on the liquidity provision side. So we have about 10 million in TVL, growing fast and serving a growing market, which is RWAs on chain. Not in the way you think, more so synthetic RWAs. So you can trade all sorts of assets, gold, silver, crude oil, even exotic assets like the Turkish lira on chain in one terminal alongside your favorite assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of that. So that's been my current focus. But formerly, I was a venture capital investor at Pantera Capital, which was one of the first funds in the US that started a Bitcoin fund and has been investing for the last like 10 years in the space. And was there for 2 years leading their DeFi investments as well as investing in consumer. And then prior to that, I was an investment banker at Lazard, focusing on M&A, did a bit of gaming there as well, but mostly focused on SaaS. And before that, I went to Berkeley, which is kind of known for like a lot of blockchain founders and a good blockchain ecosystem. Even though, a fun fact, I had no idea about crypto in Berkeley. I only used it to buy my fake license using Bitcoin. So I was the guy that you went to in college for like getting a fake license because I owned some Bitcoin on Coinbase that I could use to then buy licenses for people. The statute of limitations, expires in 5 years, so I cannot be sued for this, which is awesome. So that's about me. The long background. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Pantera Capital, very, very well known fund, and one of the, as you said, one of the really quite reasonably early investors in Bitcoin in terms of from a fund perspective. So that would have been a really good place to spend some time. And I believe the guys at Pantera, they're backing you to this day with Avantis. Is that right?
Yes. So the story was that I worked there for 2 years and then had the idea to build a perp DEX for real world assets, and then kind of convinced my team to back me in this venture, and like was very lucky and privileged to get their support in June of 2023. So that's the story.
Awesome. And so, Avantis then, just lay it out, Sahej, as to how you are positioning yourself in DeFi and what are the unique features that make Avantis and different from the many other DeFi protocols and platforms.
Yeah, so it's a very competitive space. So I'll start by saying that leverage is the backbone of TradFi, DeFi, and it's existed for like decades now. And DeFi has kind of really made leverage composable. So that's the beauty of it. That's why I started working in this sector. But what makes Avantis different is that we're taking that the leverage derivative that is perpetuals, that was invented very much in crypto by Bitfinex, and extending that primitive to other assets that don't exist in crypto. So every asset you can think of that's not natively minted on the blockchain, we can extend perpetuals and leverage to that asset. So think assets like gold, silver, commodities, crude oil. These assets are traded 1,000 times more than crypto. They're much bigger. They're in every household. Like gold is a part of every household. If you go to countries like India, it's like the biggest store of gold, right? People love hoarding gold. So it's funny that the concept of leverage hasn't been extended as meaningfully to real world assets as it has to crypto assets. So the very first and most important differentiator for Avantis is that we allow people to trade all these assets in one terminal. You're not just stuck with crypto native bubbles bursting, all the time. So you get access to macro, you get access to global assets. You can kind of hedge your exposure by longing Bitcoin, shorting gold at the same time, or vice versa, which a lot of our traders do. That's the first and foremost. The second is that unlike a centralized exchange, of course, we're self-custodial, smart contract based, fully on-chain. And the third is that we allow people to actually market make these assets and get a yield from it. So you don't have to actually, you can passively supply liquidity and then get power these leverage trades in the background without doing anything. So we've made our LPs about $3 million in the last year, which on a $10 million TVL base is about 30% returns. And that's for passive investing by just doing nothing, leaving the money in the vault. So
Yep. That sounds pretty good. So just talk us through some of the other assets then that are available. So I think you mentioned, like there's a gold Bitcoin pair. What else have you got there? What are some of the other use cases that traders can potentially take advantage of here with kind of uncorrelated real world assets and crypto?
yeah, absolutely. So during the dollar yen unwind, the carry trade unwind, I don't know if you followed that at all, Andy,
Yep.
but basically, Japan significantly changed the interest rates, and that caused a lot of people to just sell the dollar in favor of Japan, causing USD JPY to reverse the trend. So USD JPY was up only, and then it suddenly one day just reversed, dropped like 10%, like a cryptocurrency. And on that day, Avantis was the hottest venue to trade that asset on chain, because everybody knew the trade makes sense and it has to be executed, but like where? And so that's just one example of like a geopolitical macro event kicking in, and then Avantis being there to serve the latent demand from traders, and then LPs kind of benefiting from that volume and the fees being generated on chain. So that's real economic activity by expressing your views while kind of having custody of your own assets. Another very recent event is in Turkey. The recent geopolitical tension caused Turkish lira to spike, and then again government intervention from Turkey caused it to spike back down. All that volatility is being captured on our exchange in a real world format. So those are examples of assets that exist. We already have about 15 plus assets. So all the top 10 forex pairs you know and love, two metals including gold and silver, crude oil. We're starting there, and then we're planning to expand to many more assets, including more exotic metals like palladium, orange juice futures, cocoa futures, like a lot of like stuff that people can like touch and feel and relate to, tangible assets in a synthetic way.
Yep, and with the view that Avantis is supporting such a broad, wide range of assets that presumably will just continue to grow, how do you ensure accurate pricing and liquidity for such a diverse asset base?
Yeah, absolutely. Every asset has its own unique volatility profile, and we have like members in our team who have been working in TradFi for years now, on the forex desks, on the commodity desks of a lot of banks, who know how to price these assets and the volatility associated with these assets. So pricing is dynamic; it changes based on market conditions. It's not static. At the same time, we have to be competitive and make sure that we're not overcharging traders for the ability to trade these assets on chain. So it's a fine balance between pricing risk correctly based on your knowledge of macro and TradFi and how they price in those markets using implied volatility and all those things, and also being competitive on chain with other players doing similar things.
Yep. And what about the liquidity provision mechanism? I've seen that on your website. So could elaborate how the Avantis pulls liquidity from both real world and DeFi sources. So that would be like designed to mitigate liquidity risks.
Yes. So we have one single USDC vault which powers trades for forex, commodities, and crypto assets. So there's not multiple vaults for multiple assets. It's not isolated. It's all combined into one. And then on the back end, it's our job to manage liquidity for each asset based on each asset's unique demand and risk profile, pricing, as well as ensuring that LPs are mostly delta neutral. What that means is if everyone's long Bitcoin and Bitcoin's actually going up, then the LPs are the counterparty to that and they're losing money. But luckily for us, we have robust incentives and mechanisms to ensure that there's always like makers coming in to balance queues, in the form of market makers who are incentivized to do so based on platform native incentives. We have our own version of funding rates. We call it loss protection. You get a guaranteed rebate for going against the grain, taking the unpopular view and locking in a rebate on any potential future losses. So trying to innovate across a lot of fronts, but also on this front, which is ensuring healthy LP returns while ensuring sustainable trader demand.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. And look, who are you building Avantis for? Like, do you see, I'm sure there are different kind of customer segments that you envisage. Just talk us through how you think about the different user participants.
Yeah, I think every DeFi builder wants to build for the global citizen, but the reality is we're first building for on-chain capital that has a latent need and demand for either powering trades, which just means yield, native yield in USDC, or they have a demand for like expressing macro views that go beyond the crypto native echo chamber. So our beachhead market is base native DeFi users who are power users, perp users, who like leverage, have a kind of very heavy risk profile. And then as we kind of establish ourselves, which we're doing now, phase two is having like a mobile app with simple social logins, Privy, ensuring we can kind of go to markets where these assets actually do not exist. You cannot trade gold in India, you cannot trade gold in Kenya. Go to those markets, on ramp these people using fiat on ramp rails or using exchanges, and then get them to express these views on chain in an abstracted way. So the first phase, which we're in right now, is DeFi native, high leverage, high power users whales. And the second phase is, like the global citizen that doesn't have access. So like economic access is a big part of like the vision here. And then like that starts by having a bootstrap liquidity pool that's actually doing well before you can go to the wider market.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. And how do you think about like, with operating in so many jurisdictions, it's always a challenge for DeFi to think about what is happening in terms of different regulatory frameworks. How do you, what's your approach or philosophy when thinking about this?
I think the reality is that every DeFi builder, whether you're building in spot, perps, like lending, whatever category you're building in, is in a bit of a gray market because we're all waiting for clear regulations from the respective governments that we operate in or the citizens that we serve. Right now, Avantis is not targeting marketing or like we're aggressively geo-blocking the US, for example. But in the future, the hope is that if the CFTC has clear guidelines on how a self-custodial crypto exchange can register as a broker dealer, we would love to do that. I would love to have a billboard in Times Square, like, trade gold with like 200x leverage. I would love that personally. But in the meantime, we are all just like keeping our eyes and ears open, serving markets that are also like that are not opposed to crypto, but they don't kind of enforce actions against crypto founders for no reason, and are forming their own like regulatory frameworks as we speak. So markets like EU are like already coming out with MiCA. The US is now establishing clear guidelines as well. Hopefully next year we'll see some more progress there. And countries like India, on the other hand, like they completely like just don't consider crypto to be a part of the economy. So there's a lot of work to be done there, right? So it just depends on each market is separate, and we are going after a global market that is still developing their regulations. So we have to be nimble with that.
Yeah, and if we think about DeFi in that broader context, then one of the, I guess, views on Ethereum or DeFi is that it's a little bit stagnant in terms of development. It's a little bit tricky in terms of attracting new users, getting a wider adoption beyond crypto natives, whether that's for DeFi or any of the other kind of traditional smart contract use cases. Yeah. Whereas we do see this product market fit for Bitcoin as digital gold and for stable coins as for peer-to-peer payments, remittance, etc. DeFi obviously product market fit, but only really for as you said, power users or crypto natives, technical people. How do we take DeFi and the benefits of such to the people? What needs to happen?
Yeah. So I think if you look at a lot of changes in crypto, so I'll only talk about the last year because the years before that are irrelevant now, they're gone. In the last year though, the biggest winners of the cycle, Andy, who are they? Pump Fun.
Right? Oh, meme coins.
Meme coins, right? And so you see like a Twitter account, like or like a TikTok account go up, and then some meme coin came from Twitter, like TikTok, and then someone's trading it on Moonshot, which is like an app store app with Apple Pay and Radium on the back end or Pump Fun on the back end, and people are just swapping. and Moonshot's done millions in revenue. Pump Fund is the infra providing all of that, making all that possible. They've done like $500 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously all the infra powering that at the blockchain nodes level, they do well because the apps are doing well. But I think people just care, like real people, they're like outside of the crypto echo chamber. They care about like how can they make their lives better. In this case, it was about having fun and making money, really. So, like it or not, crypto to me as a founder, especially as I become deeper in the space, is about store of value and speculation, right? And you build in any of those categories, Bitcoin, as you said, store of value, king, it's digital gold, right? Ethereum is currently a programming layer for speculation, and it has to compete with Solana, Monad, and every other programming layer for speculation. And so when we started building Avantis, we also thought about these things of where should we build, where can we have the best economics and distribution, on which layer will it be the best. And Base to us stood out because it's not tied to Ethereum. It settles on Ethereum, but it's an L2. So it has its own centralized privileges, call it, in terms of programming and what they can do better on the UX layer. And then, we are seeing them do really well now with the distribution they have on Coinbase. And we're also seeing them constantly develop Base into like a chain that's meant for the masses and not, just like the congested few crypto whales that exist on Ethereum. So to answer your question, like I think how do we get to the masses? Build stuff they want to use. It could be meme coins. Honestly, it's sad to say that, but if the masses want it, they'll have it. Builders will build it. So that's one thing. And from our perspective as builders, building leverage for real world assets, again, abstract everything away, abstract the blockchain away, build a simple mobile app that's coming at the end of the year. Have traditional fiat on ramps, and then target people in a meaningful way. Explain to them what the benefits are of trading these assets. They should not need to know it's built on the blockchain or built on Base or backed by Base. People don't care about any of that stuff, as you said. They don't care where Robinhood is built on MongoDB or some centralized server. They could not care less.
Yep. Very well said, Sahej. All right. Well, as we start to finish up this part of the podcast, for anyone listening that wants to try Avantis out, what is the best place for people to do that? What should they do and where should they go?
Yeah, so we're live on mainnet on Base at avantisfi.com. That's avantisfi.com. You can also check out our Twitter. That's also avantisfi. You'll find a ton of resources on what we've done in our documentation and also in our tutorials on our Twitter. What can you do? You can trade all kinds of assets. You can just park your money, your USDC, stable coins for double-digit yields. You can also try this brand new feature we just launched. We're all very pumped about it. It's called Zero Fee Perpetuals. And so you can trade at no cost and only pay a fraction of your profits if you win. So traditionally, perps charge you a lot of money for holding the position, for opening, closing. We'll just charge you zero, including slippage, zero on Bitcoin. And then you can take up to 250x leverage, pay absolutely nothing, and then you only pay a share of your profits if you win. So if you're dipping your feet into leverage and you don't want to pay fees, you could check that product out as well.
Excellent. And that link is in the show notes, listeners. But just avantisfi.com. All right. Well, it is time to finish up the show, Sahej, and we do that, of course, by running you through the very famous Crypto Conversation Hot Take Round. Are you up for it?
I'm up for it. I'm excited.
All right. I'm just going to run some questions at you. I just want you to give me your honest answers. Sahej, question one for you is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Somewhere in the middle. I'll go where the alpha is.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, well, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
It's the world's best means for speculation.
Very nice, very nice. Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So with that in mind, look, anything you like here. DeFi, Avantis, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
Nobody's talking about hacks, seed phrases. Everybody's just talking about the next hot thing. there's a lot of centralization on where assets are being traded. There's a lot of centralization in which chains they're being traded on. There's not as much fragmentation.
Nice. All right. Well, sci-fi author William Gibson famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
This is for crypto specifically?
Yeah, doesn't need to be crypto specifically.
Oh, wow, that's a very broad question. Um, it's already here. Like AI is eating our lives as we know it. It's very scary. Um, so in my mind, it's like I'm so scared about the next 5 years because to me, like I'm already behind on every tool that's been released. It's already here in my view. It's changing workflows as we know it. It's changed crypto a little bit lesser than it has changed other industries. That's my honest hot take. Like we've seen AI agents and all that meta is played out. It's just Twitter accounts with personalities and coins, right? There's been no meaningful use of AI in crypto, but every other industry has gotten eaten up big time by AI. So it's already here. Like 10 years is, yeah, AGI will be there in 10 years. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and essentially that means singularity style stuff in 10 years. So very
So
hard to
scary.
predict what happens beyond that. It brings us nicely to the final question, though, Sahej, which is, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
It has to be like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, just because I read it as a kid and like it's so inspiring. So basic, but
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a timeless classic and very funny. Yes. Sahej, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us today. Just to close it out, again, direct people to the Avantis website, your socials, all that stuff. Go for gold.
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry, you want me to do that right now?
Yeah,
To be clear?
just tell people where to go, what they should do.
Perfect. Yeah. Again, guys, website is avantisfi.com. That's avantisfi.com. Socials also on Twitter, avantisfi. You can follow me personally if you want to always reach out. I'm always there to help onboard, answer questions. I do that all the time in the Discord and for my community. I am at 0x Sahej. That's 0x and my first name that you see here on the podcast. So always happy to answer any questions about RWAs, building on base. If you're considering building something, please reach out. I'm always looking to help out and learn more about people's backgrounds. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sahej. All the best and bye for now.
Thank you.